This review is brought to you by Yinchi, the new game from Spielworks. Pre-order it now at spielworks.de.
From the kitchen of the cabin, it's the 5 Games for Doomsday review.
Vadoran Gardens. I think that all the talk about a gaming golden age is facile. Make no mistake here, I've engaged in this talk myself. A lot. Which just goes to show that I love discussing the facile. In fact, I love discussion. Whether gentle or heated, calm or chaotic, discussion is never facile even if the topic is. Bear in mind, this is discussion I'm talking about, not caps lock admonitions or Twitter proclamations. Should is all too often connected with an identity signifier on Twitter by those who claim inclusivity yet brandish the block function at even the most granular disagreement and wouldn't know a discussion if one slid into their DMs. The reason, though, that talk of a board game golden age is facile is that these kinds of aesthetic categories can't really be fully appraised while you're in the middle of them. You just don't know the full story, so you have to wait until a self-appointed expert years after the case tells you when something ended and then you can start to decide. This is how it should be, because academics have to have something to do. Whatever metallic hue we're currently experiencing aside, one thing the current age of gaming affords us is unbridled opportunity when it comes to the creation of games. This is the joy of crowdfunding. It offers great reward to those with talent and the ability to pull their shit together. This is, incidentally, why I've never run a Kickstarter campaign. One person who this applies to in spades, though, is Frank West, head of City of Games and possessor of possibly the coolest name in contemporary board gaming. It started with last year's flawed but ambitious City of Kings, a gargantuan and meticulous game that stood out as much for the fact that it was his first design as much as its scope and depth. City of Kings is a game that would never have got made in its present state in the pre-Kickstarter world, and without that, we wouldn't have his follow-up, Vadoran Gardens, and a gaming landscape without a game of such focus and tension would be a crying shame. In Vadoran Gardens, players take on the roles of ecumenical ingenues seeking to gain the favour of their myth-peddling superiors by cleaning up the temple gardens. This is done by playing gridded cards to overlapped already played cards and build areas of particular features such as water, earth and paddock. These features contain different kinds of animals, aquatic ornaments and blossoms, which the players then match to goal cards that have been dealt at the beginning of the game. Fulfill the goal and place your marker on the highest available number and score those points at the end. You also score points for each unbroken contiguous space of a certain type, and the player with the most points at the end wins. After the bursting at the seams ebullience of City of Kings, Vadoran Gardens is surprisingly restrained, and great skill is evinced in deploying such a select number of mechanisms in such a judicious way. Also, this game offers just enough opportunity for forward planning without the danger of falling into paralysis of choice. Where to place cards, which feature to focus on, whether to have one sole focus or hedge your bets are all worthwhile and viable decisions. And they're tough, which is how all decisions in games should be. This is a game that revels in emergent complexity and lets it dwell in the heads of players, not in fiddly little rules or acres of card text. Vadoran Gardens is a game that appears simple, but belies that simplicity in the complexity of its puzzle. The game isn't perfect, though, and exhibits some of the flaws that dog Kickstarter auteurism in games. Often the ideas are wonderful, but the lack of an independent developer leaves a few of the sharp corners on. Firstly, this game is slow at more than 2 players, as the spatial challenge takes time to solve. Secondly, there are a few unneeded additions, like some of the task cards that require you to play 2 cards in a turn. They're hard to grasp and distract from an otherwise supremely elegant game. Those slight gripes aside, though, there is no doubt that Vadoran Gardens is a game that delivers much more than its 20-minute playtime would suggest, and it really shines at 2 players. In short, it's a game from a designer who instinctively understands tabletop games, and I'm sure will continue to make great games in the future. This is why I love Kickstarter, because it enables those with talent and decisiveness to take control of their own work, which is the goal of any artist. And in Vadoran Gardens, Frank West has certainly taken control of his. This review has been made possible by the support of my patrons. You can become one too at patreon.com/. /5G for D. Thank you for listening.